After I finished waxing the floor of the south corridor, I decided to take the long way back to my room. I was a bit bothered by the look on Dorian's face as he walked past me with the watchers. It had lost a little bit of its certainty. His confident gaze was more resigned. He certainly looked less pretty than usual. Again, I was reminded of Dorian Gray, not the handsome, vain socialite, but rather the eventual, disfigured, corrupted portrait of his soul. Anyway, I thought a long walk around the facility would help me relax. I felt a bit agitated, and I never like that feeling, as rare as it is. The facility is always nice right before lights out. It has a clean, sterile vibe to it, which makes me feel settled and in order. However, tonight was strange, because as I passed the assembly hall, which is almost never used, only on rare occasions when the director has addressed the entire community, the doors were closed. The doors are never closed to the assembly hall, even when there's an assembly. Curiosity took over, and I decided to open the door slightly to take a peek. Almost every white coat in the compound was noisily rustling about. After a few minutes, the director walked in, and everyone stood at attention, then simultaneously sat. The director then began to address the audience.
I have called this staff meeting to address concerns over certain subjects' increased levels of agitation over the past few months. In particular, Subject I has had to undergo repeated lessons for lack of focus on his assigned tasks, and most recently, he was caught undergoing an unscheduled physical activity.
Then a white coat stood up.
Director, this is the third time he has tried to run. He hasn't given any motive, nor do we know why he would want to run outside the perimeter. Subject I is clearly disturbed over something, and the lessons we have administered do not seem to be working as effectively as they have in the past. We are worried that his misconduct will start influencing the other subjects negatively.
I completely understand the concerns. That's why it's more important than ever to reaffirm our purpose and communicate our message as clearly and convincingly as possible. Agitation is the root of aggression and anger, and these emotions can only have a deleterious effect on our peaceful community. We need to increase our efforts to keep our subjects pacified and focused. Therefore, I want an increased rotation of lessons given to these subjects, even if they have not misbehaved. Even the most fertile soil needs to be occasionally tilled, cultivated, and renourished, and the same applies to fertile, productive, and peace-loving minds.
But Director, we have yet to see many disturbances in the other subjects. They have been a bit more restless lately, but hardly enough to warrant more lessons, which may render the lessons less effective. Look at the effects of increased lessons on Subject I. It seems his mind wanders more and more after the lessons, and he retains less and less of the message. Remember how prolonged and repeated lessons affected Subject A? Do you really think this is wise?
We have always been proactive in our approach, and that is how we have managed to maintain stability and productivity throughout the years. We have always been guided by the underlying principles of precaution. Let us not forget our charge. When an activity raises threats of harm to human health or the environment, precautionary measures must be taken, even if some cause and effect relationships are not fully established scientifically. This precautionary principle, which is the foundation of everything we do here at the compound, applies as much to the big picture as it does to the small details, which will invariably affect the big picture. We need to stave off any trickle of aggression, lest it becomes a current and then a raging river we cannot control. So let us conclude our meeting by remembering our values.
And they all repeated after the director.
Gratitude.
Because our lives depend on air, water, soil, plants, humans, and other animals.
Empathy.
Because we are connected with all of creation.
Sympathy.
Because we all experience suffering and death, both necessarily in the course of life and unnecessarily when these values are not practiced.
Compassion.
Because it moves us to attend to suffering and injustice. And humility. Because we cannot know all of the consequences of our actions. We belong to the community of the earth. It is the source of our own life, and our actions affect its well-being. Therefore, we practice respect, because it is fundamental to good relationships.
Restraint.
Because the earth is finite, and we must honor its limits.
Simplicity.
Because we are only one species, sharing earth with many others. Humor. Because life is good, and humor disrobes tyranny and absurdity. It is through love for the particular, a child, a neighborhood, a family of otters, a meandering river, that we find our way to a sustaining relationship with the earth and our community.
The director then spoke, almost sang, what I thought were very beautiful words.